Welcome back, everybody, to the OK Grognard Show. It is Thursday, June 24th, 2021, 10 a.m. Central, or a little thereafter, in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Well, let's see, we had some discussion the other day about some of the tables on the Dungeon Master's adventure log. Included a table on listening, and I had misspoke about some information on that table, which is in the DMG, and it had escaped my mind. So I thought I would spend some time, and because that was listening at doors, I started looking at some stuff in the DMG on doors in general, and thought, it might be interesting just to have a quick review of all the stuff in the DMG on doors. So there you go. Morning there, Rick. How are you? Thanks for popping in. Starting up a little late today. Talking about doors, though. Not Jim Morrison Company, but actual doors as they are outlined in the Dungeon Master's Guide. So, looking at some of that stuff. Yeah, I'm going to slide myself over just a little bit. There we go. Good deal. Just checking in the back of the book, we can see doors are all over the place. Concealed or secret detection of, listening at, and opening. We'll start at the bottom. Morning, Misty. How are you? And when I say start at the bottom, that is to say we'll go to page 97 first. And I think that's actually 98 by this. But movement and searching. Taking a quick look. First adventure, 3 maps. So when they do movement and searching, they suggest a number of things, and we'll pop in a little closer on this. Here we go. We'll do that whole section because it has a lot of information in there that's pertinent. Movement and searching, you must make some arbitrary decisions regarding the time expended in activities which are not strictly movement. Traveling along a corridor and mapping its length takes 1 turn per 90 feet, assuming a base move of 90 feet. How long does it take to move along? But a short second of passage. Open a door, enter the room and beyond, and search it. Such variables as passage length, condition of the portal, locked, stuck, or normal, size of the room beyond, thoroughness of the search make an absolute determination of time nearly impossible. There are many variations of player character activity, looking for signs of use of the corridor, listening for noise, looking for traps, inspection of walls for secret doors, etc., all of which compound the need for an arbitrary handling of the time. If a few fixed references are used, been waiting since 10, says Rick. Yeah, I was late today, for sure. And you could have completely searched some very long corridors. and the time it took me to get here. Thanks for waiting for me. I appreciate it. The task, let's see, all of which compound the need for an arbitrary handling of time. If a few fixed references are used, the task becomes a good deal easier, however. Therefore, the following suggestions are offered. For just a regular door, searching for traps, throw a round on there. Remember, a segment is 6 seconds. There are 10 segments in a round. A round is 1 minute, therefore. And there are 10 rounds in a turn, which is 10 minutes. Search for traps, a round. Listening for noise, 1 round. Mapping, in regard to a room now, mapping and casually examining a 20 by 20 area, 1 turn. Thoroughly searching after initial examination, 1 turn. So thoroughly searching a room. That doesn't include. We'll get down to that inclusion there in the asterisk right now. This assumes that, in fact, the area has items which can be checked for traps, examined, content search, hidden compartments looked for, and so on. If there are many containers and much furniture in the area, the time might actually be double that shown. If the place has nothing but some odds and ends, then a casual examination will discover all there is to know about the place, short of a check for secret doors. And a thorough search is contraindicated. Just to say, if you can just look a place over and you're not going to bother with secret doors, really you're talking about a round or two to check an area, an entire room that's 20 by 20 or thereabouts. With regard to a secret door, checking for by simply tapping of floor or wall of a 10 by 10 foot area is a round. Thorough examination for means to open of a 10 by 10 foot area, 1 turn. So you're trying to figure out if there's one there and if the mechanism is also difficult to find. It might take you a full 10 minutes. 97 and 9 was also, so we're popping over here to where it says page 9, and we're going to take a quick look, see if we see anything that jumps out at us as information on doors. I think doors may be mentioned. It was not a bold text. Number 9, it was a simple 9, which means doors might be mentioned, but not significantly. Let's go to concealed detection. We already did that section on page 97, but there's more information on 136. Well, there is a listing for a wand of secret door and trap location. This wand has an effective radius of 1.5 inches, that is 15 feet for secret door location, 30 foot for trap location. When the wand is energized, it will pulse and point to whichever thing it is to locate if a secret door or trap is within the location. So you'd have to specify. Note that it locates either one or the other, not both. During one operation, it requires 1 round to function and draws 1 charge. The wand may be recharged. I always like wands that you can charge back up again. And 167, they've got something else. in regard to that. Okay, this is part of the swords powers of magical swords, and on here somewhere it will include, oh, here we go, right here, um, quite a bit of detect secret doors, a lot of detection stuff there, and it includes detecting secret doors. Let's go on to listening. I think here on 61 we have probably the most interesting part, or the main thing. Listening at doors. And here's where my memory was failing me the other day. In addition to the simple exercise of observation, many times characters will desire to listen, ear pressed to a portal prior to opening and entering. This requires a special check in secret by you to determine, you the dungeon master, to determine if any sound is heard. Because of this, continual listening becomes a great bother to the DM. See, I think this is Gary writing a sentence after having run so many games and rolled so many dice when people were just listening and listening and listening. Well, ear seekers will tend to discourage some. Why are we discouraging people from doing anything? And ear seekers is a small parasite, wormy type thing that lives in the wood of doors. And when you go and listen to it for noise at a door, take your helmet off, press your ear to the door, and if there's an ear seeker in there, it might just crawl out of the wood and into your head, like in the like the creatures on, what is it, Alpha Ceti 6, Alpha Ceti 4? Which one is Khan on the desert with the one indigenous creature that will crawl into your ear and take over your brain or make you docile? Anyway, ear seekers will kill you, and they were a monster invented seemingly by Gary in an attempt to discourage constant listening, because he was getting tired of rolling dice apparently. Well, ear seekers will tend to discourage some. Most players will insist on having their characters listen at doors at every pretense. First, make certain that you explain to players that all headgear must be removed in order to listen. Those wearing helmets will probably have to remove a male coif and padded cap as well, don't forget. The party must also be absolutely silent, and listening will take at least one round. So you have to listen for a while to make sure that whatever's on the other side can be heard. Silent creatures, undead, bugbears, etc., will never be heard. Sleeping or resting or alerted creatures will not be heard either. If there is something for the listener to hear beyond the door, the following probabilities will determine if any sound is heard. This was the information also shared in the table in the first edition. Absolutely, it was completely a first edition Dungeon Master's Adventure Log, and the tables that were on a couple of pages therein included this one, the chance of hearing noise for the various races of creatures, dwarf, elf, gnome, half-elf, halfling, half-orc, and human. Uh, Let me finish this by saying keen-eared individuals will gain a bonus of 1 or 2 in 20, 5 or 10%. Use chances of hearing a noise to determine if a character is keen-eared the first time he or she listens, and if it is indicated, tell the player to note the fact for his or her character. Player characters will not initially have hearing problems, as they wouldn't have survived if they had them. During the course of adventuring, great noise might cause hearing loss. Handle this as you see fit. A loss of hearing might negate the chance to hear something behind a door without any other noticeable effects. So you could have sort of a minimal hearing loss that would affect that. Hey George, how you doing? Got started late, George. So you're not missing a whole lot. I'm 16 minutes into the show, I guess now. 15 and a half. We've got a bit to go here. And not too much more to go, honestly. 173, that was 61. 197, we have a 97 page we already looked at. 173, we really just have one last section to check for listening at doors, and that is in the random wilderness table. No, it's not. It's in the previous one, which is the random dungeon generation appendix, which includes a section right at the end. Oops, a little big on that there. A little notation for listening at doors where it says use a 12-sided die. Remember the other table is percentage dice. Use a 12-sided die, and if a 1 is rolled, there is a monster with or without treasure. Procedure is then normal, but surprise is possible only on the monster's part. Okay, so that's kind of a way when you're doing a random dungeon generation, perhaps for some solo play. It is meant to speed things along. And someone listens at a door, and you roll a 1, then there is a monster that's bolded because you may have already rolled and indicated that there is no monster, but now there you go, Lucky. You've just forced our hand. We have to throw an extra monster in there. I'm going to check page 16 as well because that's also there, although it's not in bold. And I'm not completely sure if it's there for a great purpose. No, doors must be mentioned on here, but not to any great effect. Anyway, that's about that. I'm going to pop back down to the bottom here. And I don't think there's anything else in regard to doors. I think we've covered all of the things that are in the DMG in that regard. Double check this part of the index as well. There we go. Nope. Okay. Nothing else to check. Well, that's doors in a nutshell, my friends. So there you go. From the DMG. Took a little side trip here today. I do have an intention of doing an episode on spellbooks. I think we'll do that next week for Magic users. I know Sarah might be particularly interested in that one, although if she was here, she would have already taken off today, so I'm glad I didn't disappoint her by making her wait and then not having something on spellbooks. I did start my new campaign up this week on with 5 players. I know I had a few extras that had asked about playing, but I'm limiting it to 5 this time around for a few different reasons. I had a group. I started with 10 players last time, and it whittled down to 8 and then went back up to 9 at one point. But it was a good group, and I had a good time playing with a big group. But I wanted to run another campaign with just a handful this time. I had a couple extra people requesting. I'll keep you on a short list if you requested playing for any one-shots I might run. Thank you, George. Yeah, 5 is a good size, I think, for a campaign a lot of times. I'll run it with as little as 3 players. I don't like to play with just 2 players just because I enjoy a group having at least 3 players so that they can collectively make decisions without things becoming just a back and forth between 2 players. Plus, I like things that be fairly deadly, fairly challenging in first edition, and you really have to scale back if you want to not just outright kill player characters. You really have to scale back encounters pretty significantly to make them survivable for 2 player characters. And I don't know. Then the game becomes more about helping them survive rather than playing at a typical baseline. You know, it's one thing to pull a few creatures out of the pile if you've, only got 4 players or even 3 players instead of 4 or 5, right? Or to add a couple in if you have 6, 7 or more. But when you're down to like 2 players, it's just awful tough. And I don't like running more than, 8, 9, or 10 was a lot. And I saw times when some of the players were feeling as if we weren't giving enough of a spotlight to them. But it's really about the group when you play with 8, 9, 10 players. And you have to have a caller. You have to have one person who's driving the action. What we did a lot of the time was we had somebody who was the caller, generally speaking, and then we had a different caller, a specialist caller, for when there was combat, kind of a combat caller, if you will. That worked out pretty well. But it still left a number of players, I could tell, that they were itching to get more spotlight time, if you will. And I don't mean that as a denigration or anything. And it's another reason I wanted to keep it smaller numbers. George asks, standard classes, good mix. Well, I did mention that it was a humanocentric campaign setting. It was really focused on humans and other character races, and the word we don't like to use because it's a misuse really of the word. I think it limits species is kind of awkward, but works. But in any event, in regard to dwarves, elves, and whatnot, we have a half elf who is dual classing, multi-classing rather, as a druid thief, which is an interesting combination. I haven't seen that before. Sarah is a human magic user. Alan settled on a halfling thief. And Dave is jumping in with a human paladin. And a human cleric is being played by Daniel. So yeah, good mix. Right? Magic user, thief. Magic user, thief. Cleric and fighter / paladin. The druid thief. I may talk to Dave about that's the other Dave. We got 2 Daves. We're calling this Dave Yoda. He said that's a nickname he used to have when he was younger at some point. So since we have 2 Daves, he's fine with being called Yoda. I may talk to him about dropping the thief portion of his druid thief to keep him from advancing at half the pace of the rest of the party. He may enjoy that. may enjoy just keeping up, because I think once we get a few months into a campaign like this, if somebody's severely lagging behind by a level or two, they're going to feel it. So I'll have that talk with him soon and discuss it. In any event, I think we're about there, says the clock on the wall. So I'm going to thank everybody for popping in and listening. Rick, Misty, George, appreciate it. And for also chiming in on the chat. I will say, too, that if you are going to come here and check us out on Twitch, then please do follow the channel. We're here. Oops. Oh, I see what I did there. Well, we got to go this way. Monday and Thursday at 10 a.m. Central is when we are here. It takes, it's usually under a half hour, so please do pop in. If you do come in, please follow the channel and do chime in on the chat. Join us in some little discussion as we're doing it. Also, once the show's done, we upload it to YouTube, so you can watch all episodes there where they're archived. If you do go to YouTube, please do subscribe to the channel, click the little bell so you are notified when new uploads are made. Feel free to give us a thumbs up anytime you watch and enjoy an episode, and by all means comment on those too. We'd very much appreciate it. This has been the OK Grognard Show from beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Bye-bye.